Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my presentation of the Albariza soil. My name is Mario Cagnetta, and I'm a certified wine educator candidate. I just don't want to waste too much of your time, but like I want actually after this class, you to be more confident when it comes to pairing or choosing a type of sherry and pairing with the wine. And of course, we are talking about how the Albariza soil is actually crucial along with other circumstances and climate conditions in the developing of this beautiful wine that we all know as a sherry. After this presentation, the student will be able to describe the Albariza soil and its composition, locate and recall like the best location of the Albariza soil, and also discuss how climate, soil, yeast interact to develop the different sherry styles, and also compare and contrast the different style of sherry and suggesting an appropriate wine and food pairings. Just want to give you a short overview about the location because the location is also important when it comes to sherry. The sherry triangle is here. We are in Andalusia. We is one of the southernmost provincia in Spain, and the surface under hectare of the sherry region is a little bit less than 10,000 hectares. And there are, of course, some villages like Cipiona, Rota, Trebujena, but of course, this area is mostly recognized and famous for as the Sherry Triangle, which is Jerez de la Frontera, El Puerto de Santa Maria, and Sanlúcar de Barrameda. Here in this map from Wine Scholar Guild, we actually have a better idea where Andalusia is. Here it is. This is the Sherry Triangle, and as you can see, we have this area as the Atlantic Ocean from the west, and in the south instead as the Mediterranean Sea. So, of course, Mediterranean maritime climate, like in a certain area, Mediterranean climate, and more continental when it comes a little bit far from the ocean. Quick facts about sherry. Sherry is a fortified wine made by three grapes, but like mostly is Palomino, the dry sherry. And base wine production is made with a base wine production plus fortification. And the degree of fortification, of course, varies according to the style of sherry. So we can have a lower fortification when it comes to fino and more fortification when it comes to oloroso. Of course, there are very many different types of sherry. The most important are two kind of a family, the Fino and the Oloroso. The Fino actually goes under a biological aging due to the developing of a floor. And we will talk about a little bit further, like about this particularity, this peculiarity about the Fino. While the Oloroso instead goes through an oxidative aging and it doesn't develop any floor. The maturation of sherry goes in a complex series of barrels known as a Solera system. This is the so-called fractional blending system. Here in this chart coming from Guild Somme, you can see clearly how it goes. So basically, at the end, you take the wine from here, but every year, the barrels is refilled. As we see, as I'm trying to suggest in this presentation, sherry is a result of multiple things. Of course, Albariza soil, the climate, the wind. We will see how there are two winds. Actually, they play a big role in the formation and the developing of floor. And also the winemaking technique. We don't have to forget the Solera system and the fractional blending and the fortification process. But let's talk about the Albariza soil. According to the Oxford Companion of Wine, Albariza soil is a local Andalusian term for the white chalky soil typical of parts of the Jerez region in the south of Spain. Most of the land is of the Sherry region once was covered by this inland sea, and when the sea retreated, actually, it left a lot of marine sediments with limestone and clay. This is also the main soil found in the Jerez Dio, and is found in 90% of the vineyards of the region. Of course, the most prominent area is the Jerez Superior, a subregion between the subregion between the Sanlúcar, the Barrameda, and the Guadalete River. Here we are instead to talk about a little bit more of the soil, the characteristic of this beautiful soil. Uh, in general, when if you have a chance to go to Andalusia in the Jerez region, you will see like that there are gentle rolling hills with not as much as altitude, with a gradient between 10 to 15%. There are, of course, three type of soil in this area, and the Albariza is actually on the top of the hill. And Albariza is characterized by this white, as you can see clearly from this picture taken from the sherry notes. Is a soft loam chalk, whitish, characterized by extremely wideness exactly, and it comes to the surface on top of the hills. The properties of this soil is the high content of calcium carbonate, clay, and silica. Coming from the shell, like that were present on the sea once, the sea was covering the entire region. And the characteristic of this Albariza soil are very crucial for they play a big role in the sherry production because the Albariza soil is characterized by high moisture retaining power. And Albariza has also an ability to absorb water, and also the white color reflects sunlight back up to the vine. Did actually can help for the ripening process, and Albariza is very easy to work. But this we will see because there are different type of Albariza. Some are very easy to work, some not very suitable for wine for viticulture. Of course, there are, when you go a little bit deeper into the world of the Albariza soil, you will discover that there are many Albariza type of soil, and they are categorized according to the percentage of the calcium carbonate and rich limestone and chalk in the soil. And also, like the location is very particular because most of the time we are going to find the Albariza soil on top of the hills. So this whitish thing is mostly on top of the slope, while the arena soil instead it's almost at the bottom. Uh, Different Albariza soil, as I was trying to explain. The current classification is mostly the work of, due to the work of Garcia del Barrio in La Tierra del Vino de Jerez in 1972. According to this, he categorized the Albariza soil based on the percentage of calcium carbonate, clay, and silica in the soil. And we have the Barrejuela, which has around 50% chalk. Tosca, a little bit more, 60% limestone chalk and is highly absorbent. Lanteluela, 50% limestone and chalk. Tajon 80% limestone, and this actually, as you will see, is not very ideal for vineyards. And Lustrio, the chalk content is most of the time the lowest, between 30 and 50%. And now what I'm trying to suggest is I needed to take a little bit of time to introduce the mystery of floor when it comes to the Fino sherry. Floor is a layer of indigenous yeast that forms on top of the biologically aged sherry wines. Of course, the floor is very crucial because according to the development or not of the floor, we are able to classify sherries. So we have biological age sherry, which are Fino and Manzanilla, and we have oxidative sherry, which has no floor at all, Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez. The yeast cells of the floor consume certain compounds in the wine and create new compounds. And here we will see that there is an enormous microbial diversity, and there are four types of flora. The most important are the Beticus and the Montuliensis, and I want you to pay more attention about this because by studying the also the develop, there is an interaction and then there is a link between the Albariza soil, the development of certain yeast, and the location of certain pagos. So we will see right now how all of these things combine together. Beticus yeast is the most common and is the dominant yeast in Sanlúcar de Barrameda. So we can say after this discovery that the Beticus yeast actually develops much more when it finds more humid climate and the soil is closer to the coast. The Montoliensis instead tends to be more typical in the Jerez area. So the more we go inland, the more we can find the Montoliensis yeast. And in order to create this environment, also the climate is very, very, very important. And we will see now why. Of course, as I said, as anticipating before, the climate in this area is Mediterranean with Atlantic and continental influences. Rainfall is actually not very relevant and is mostly happening during the winter time. Of course, the area is super, super hot. Is one of the warmest average temperature in Spain. And there are two winds, actually, one from the west, the Poniente, and one from the east, the Levante. They are actually facing and together and are very important because the Poniente brings a lot of humidity. And as you can see, the area between the Sanlúcar de Barrameda and even El Puerto de Santa Maria has more influence of the Poniente, while of course in the area around Jerez de la Frontera, the influence of Levante is more dominant. So more humidity, more Beticus yeast, and we will see more possibly a delicate kind of sherry. When it comes to more continental climate, we will see the dominance of the Montuliensis and more powerful types of sherry. Here it is. When we talk about sherry, of course, we talk about Pagos. Pago, most of the time, is wrongly associated to a kind of a single vineyard or eventually even a crew. This is not actually the right definition. A Pago is a vineyard district where there are multiple vineyards that actually share similar characteristics in terms of climate, in terms of even exposure, in terms of gradient, in terms of soil. And of course, if we are focus our attention on the Sherry Triangle, the most important in Jerez de la Frontera are the pagos of Balbaina, which is actually shared between Jerez and El Puerto de Santa Maria. We have Carrascal. we have Macharnudo, which is actually maybe the most important, the most recognized pago in the Sherry Triangle. In Sanlúcar, instead, we have the Calauela, Miraflores, and Pastrana, and El Puerto, we have Los Tercios and Balbaina. Now we let's try to put all of these elements together, and in order to have a better idea of what sherry, especially sherry fino, can be and oloroso. So when we have a tough soil means with a higher percentage of calcium carbonate, and we have a higher possibility to develop the Montoliensis yeast. And when we have instead a softer soil and more easy to work, we have also the tendency to have a more Bacillus yeast strain in the grapes. The location is also very important because the more we are closer to the coast or further inland, we have a different ripening time. So closer to the coast, there is more humidity and more benefits coming from the sea breezes. So we have a late ripening grape. Instead, like further inland, of course, the temperature gets higher and the grapes actually arrives earlier. And in this case, when the grapes arrives earlier, and we have possibility to have a more Montoliensis yeast, we have a more robust wine. Instead, when we have the prevalence of Bacillus yeast in a pagos that actually is closer to the coast, we have a lighter kind of wines. And this is actually where we are going to now. And we are going to see how this translates all of these elements together, goes into the bottle. I actually have here two types of sherry. One is La Gitana from Bodegas Hidalgo, and this one is Valdespino from Innocente from Valdespino. And here we will see, I pick some wines very characteristic of certain pagos, and I'm trying to show you that the choice of a style of sherry is the result of a multiple condition that combine together. Here, Carascal. Carascal is, as you can see, a pago from the Jerez area. And in these pagos, this is one of the furthest inland. Actually, I can show you here where Carascal he is, and it's here. And of course, one of the furthest inland, we have early ripening process in the grape, more robust wine, and of course, the possibly the Montoliensis yeast being dominant around this area. So, of course, the choice in this terroir, this pagos, gives wine that are much more suitable for an oloroso kind of wine. And here it's not a coincidence that we have the Valdespino Don Gonzalo. Let's take a look instead of Macharnudo. Macharnudo is actually here, not far from Carascal, but of course, it's a little bit closer to the coast. And in Macharnudo, we have the Innocente as also the Tio Pepe. One of the most famous pago, and is a kind of a Grand Cru, I will say. It extends for 600 hectares and is divided in two areas. So Macharnudo Alto and Macharnudo Bajo. The Alto, as I tried to tell you before, the altitude, in the altitude, the higher we go, the higher possibility we have to find the purest Albariza soils. And in this case, still the further inland location gives Fino sherry that are kind of like very close to the Amontillado and kind of a robust kind of sherry. Here instead, we have the Miraflores. This is the largest Pago de Sanlúcar. Here we are. As you can see, this Pago is so close to the coast. So in this case, of course, we are going to have possibly more Beticus yeast. And it's still divided in two parts, the Baja and the Alta Miraflores. Baja is mostly lentejuelas and lustrio soil, while the Alta Tosca is the Alta Tosca Cesada is the most dominant. In this case, the selection, we have a more humidity and more possibility to develop the Beticus yeast, which is actually crucial in the formation of the floor. And we have a more kind of like a late ripening grapes that goes better for the production of Fino Sherry and Manzanilla. Balbaina instead is a pago between Jerez and El Puerto de Santa Maria. Still a great size, but it benefits a lot from the poniente wind. In this case, very good for the production of Manzanilla and Fino Sherry. Here we are. Now we are trying to take a look of sherry and food. So you can, just generally speaking, Fino and Manzanilla are very good as an aperitif, and they combine because the briny flavor that you have in the Manzanilla and the Fino combines very well with the olives, salt fish, also shellfish, white meats, and also combine very well with the prosciutto, with the jamon iberico, for example. Instead, the Oloroso goes much better with the mature cheese. Also because of its nutty flavor, you can combine a little bit better with kind of a tuna fish, game, mushroom, and spicy dishes. I also, as I said, I have some example of sherry here. I have the Bodegas Hidalgo La Gitana. And I just want to see, in a glass, how, this characteristic actually, the difference between two different sherry coming from different pagos. This one is most likely in the Balbaina. So we are between the area of Jerez and El Puerto de Santa Maria. And we have the typical notes of the manzanilla, briny, kind of like with the typical almond notes. Salty, beautiful, especially briny. This wine is kind of like the light kind of a sherry fino. Um, in this case, you get like even this kind of a yeasty flavor coming. It's very dominant, very salty. You get like a beautiful combination with oyster. I found like a sherry and oyster are simply made to be together. Instead, here we have the Valdespino Innocente Fino. As I said before, this wine instead is from the Maciarnudo Pago. Still like a kind of a delicate wine, but in this case, you get a little bit more. You get a little bit more the note, or the notes. A little bit more. The climate actually plays a big role here. You have a little bit more power in this wine, and you have still kind of like a beautiful almonds note in this wine, but um, you have a little bit more delicate notes that can be combined very well with white fish instead. And yeah, this is basically what is all about. I hope after this class you have a better idea about like the possibility, the unlimited possibility that you have to for an entire meal with sherry and food, and also you also have a chance to understand a little bit better the different soil and the different interaction of that combined together are able to deliver this sophisticated and very complex wine. I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for your attention.